Welcome to Standard 11B on the Great Depression. I gotta say, I love new technology. It allows me to be there tormenting you with new historical knowledge, even when I'm not there in school. So if you're looking at the worksheet, you'll probably see this picture in the oval in the middle of the sheet. So why don't we go ahead and fill in this definition of the Great Depression in that oval. Okay, the Great Depression refers to the economic collapse of the global economy during the 1930s. And as you're writing, if you take a look at that woman's face, if you understand the emotion in that face, the unhappy, anxious, nervous look in her face, we notice she has 3 children, 2 leaning on each shoulder and 1 in her arms. This is a very famous historical photo taken during the Great Depression. This woman was from Oklahoma, and she and her family had left there and moved to California, hoping things economically would be better, and found that things weren't that much better at all. Now far from her home, she's living in a tent. She's got these 3 kids, and that, as we said, nervous, unhappy, anxious look as she's wondering where's the next check going to come from for food, for medicine, for housing. Okay, and that look and that feeling was a global, worldwide feeling throughout the 1930s. So we'll go ahead and take a look down the left side of your page at some causes. We have 4 causes total and 4 effects. Okay, so in the first box on the left-hand side, we'll fill in our cause. So the first cause of why this happened. Okay, if we're trying to answer the question, why did the global economy collapse during the 1930s, we have to go back to the Treaty of Versailles at the end of World War I. If you remember from Standard 10, the Treaty of Versailles required Germany to pay reparations, money to repair damages for things that happened during the war. Well, Germany is a major world economic power. And at times early in the 1920s, Germany was being asked to pay more money than Germany was worth. Pretty much all the money in Germany was going to pay England, France, the Allied countries, the victorious countries in World War I, was going to pay off damages. That left very little money in Germany to buy things, to invest in things, and the idea that Germany as a major economic power is kind of needed in the world economy. It's kind of an essential piece of the economic puzzle in the world. Okay, the world without Germany in the economy is a much poorer place. And because the reparations were just sucking so much money out of Germany's pockets, Germany didn't have money to participate in the world economy. Okay, the second cause in our next box were high protective tariffs that reduce trade between countries. A tariff is a tax, and more specifically, it's a tax on products imported into a country. If you want to buy a Japanese or Korean or German car, for example, you'll typically have to pay a little bit more than what it says on the sticker price because the government tacks on a tariff, maybe an extra $200, $500, usually a nominal amount. But again, it's the idea that the government would prefer that you buy products made in the United States. But since you're allowed to buy whatever you want, the government says, well, we didn't get the money from that product, you bought something from another country. We're going to take a little bit though. A protective tariff goes far beyond that. A protective tariff is designed to keep foreign products from being bought. If instead of maybe a 2% tariff on a product, the government put a 100% tariff on something, instead of the car being $10,000 from Germany or Korea or Japan, the car is now $20,000. That's meant to keep people from buying that product. Just like in the picture, the guy's erecting a wall to keep things out. That's sort of what a protective tariff does. It keeps foreign products out. And the problem with these are once one country does it, if the United States puts protective tariffs up in the United States, Germany, Japan, Korea, they're going to do the same thing, and trade between these countries will stop. Cause number 3 in the third box is a common problem even today. People were buying too much on credit. Okay, and credit cards are great things as long as you have the money to pay them off at the end of the month. Okay, if you have a credit card and you have $1,000 spending limit on it, as long as you have $1,000 in the bank to pay that off at the end of the month, it's not that big a deal. The problem is people were spending more money on credit than they had. Okay, if your credit limit is $1,000 and you only have $100 in the bank, you're going to get yourself in trouble with the credit card company, because the credit card company also charges interest, and that interest can sometimes be 20% or more. So very quickly you can find yourself in a deep economic hole with the credit card company. This, as we'll see in the effects, was made worse during the Great Depression by people losing their jobs. And when people lost their jobs and didn't have income to pay off their credit cards, a lot of people found themselves in an even deeper hole with their credit cards. Put a little star next to the fourth box, because those first 3 things were important causes, but the major cause, the cause most people associate with the Great Depression, is cause number 4 here, which was the stock market crash of 1929. In October of 1929, the stocks on Wall Street, they crashed. The value went just completely down. Stocks, if you know anything about stocks are really a bet on the future. If you buy, let's say you buy shares in Apple, you're really betting that Apple is going to keep coming out with new products that people are going to buy, and that the money you invest in Apple today is going to be worth more a year from now. If you think, for example, Apple has done all it can do and it's going to lose money, it doesn't really make sense to invest money in that stock. If you think it's going to keep innovating and making new products, makes sense to invest in the stock. What happens in 1929, though, is just collectively, all together, confidence got shaken. People thought things were going to get worse, and they started to pull their money out of the stock market. For people who didn't move fast enough, though, they lost all of their money. Okay, there's no guarantee in the stock market. You can make a lot of money, but you can also lose a lot of money, and unfortunately, a lot of people lost all of their life savings in the stock market crash of 1929. So those are our 4 causes. We'll now move over to the other side of the sheet and take a look at our 4 effects of the Great Depression. Okay, the first effect has to do with unemployment. Unemployment during the Great Depression went sky high. So in the first box, let's put down high unemployment rates. Typically, when companies start to lose money, one of the first things they do to try and save money is get rid of workers. Okay, instead of paying 100 workers, they fire 20 of those workers and only pay 80 workers. It's a quick and easy way from the company's point of view to try and save money. Unfortunately for those 20 workers, now they've lost their livelihood. They've lost the money that they depended on from those jobs. We're going to see during the Great Depression unemployment rates in the United States and other countries at over 25%, nearly 1 out of every 4 people out of work. So that's our first effect of the Great Depression. The second one is one that's a little hard for us to picture today because it's not as common, but banks start to fail during the Great Depression. if you put money into a bank, let's say you get $100 for your birthday and you put that into a bank, the bank doesn't just keep your $100 on a shelf with your name on it. They lend that money out right away to the next person in line who needs to borrow $100. And as long as that person pays back the loan, your $100 is there when you go back for it. Today, that's guaranteed by the government. If somebody doesn't pay back your $100, the government's going to make sure that you still have your money. That didn't exist in the 1920s, though. So as people started to lose their jobs and they weren't able to pay back the loans that they had taken out, people who had invested their money in the banks found that their money was gone. Picture that awful feeling showing up at the bank that you've put hundreds of dollars into, and the bank says, we're really sorry, we loaned your money out to other people and they haven't paid it back, your money's gone. Okay, and when that happens to all the money in the bank closed. Okay, people would show up and the next day the bank was closed and they couldn't get their money out. They lost everything in the banks. Okay, cause number 3, we see the collapse of worldwide trade. As we mentioned with the protective tariffs, as countries put higher and higher taxes on each other's products, people tended to just buy products from their own country. And that led to the collapse of worldwide trade. And that's going to pose a problem because trade creates jobs. Okay, the more things that are being traded between countries creates more jobs. Countries who trade with each other, they also tend to be friendly with one another. Okay, it's very difficult to picture Japan, for example, attacking the United States anytime soon. The United States is Japan's biggest customer, so there's no incentive for that to happen. As countries stop trading with each other, we're getting close to World War II, the likelihood of war increased. And that kind of brings us into our 4th cause here, which was the rise of totalitarian dictators with total power. In particular in Germany and Italy, but in other countries as well. People who are poor, they tend to look for quick solutions to their poverty. Germany and Italy are very cultured, sophisticated countries, but they were very poor during the 1920s. There was a lot of anger in these countries too over the Treaty of Versailles, particularly in Germany, a little bit in Italy as well, and they were willing to follow these guys. If things were good economically in Germany and Italy, people have said, Hitler, Mussolini, you guys are crazy. There's no way we're going to do what you're asking us to do. But because people were desperate, people had lost their life savings, they had lost their homes, they had lost their jobs, they saw these guys, as crazy as their ideas sounded, they sounded better than what they had. Okay, and so the world moves closer to World War II because of the Great Depression. And that concludes what we need to know for Standard 11B.